How are you guys doing today? Oh, how are you all doing today? I guess you can take me out of the north, but not the north out of me. The first sermon I ever delivered in the South, I said you guys, and it was a beautiful sermon. I don't remember what I said, but I'm sure it was good. But the only thing people commented on was how I said you guys instead of y'all. How many of you have a talent? You should all be raising your hands. If you can raise your hand, that's a talent. How many of you get an allowance? Over there, allowance? Well, maybe this will be a good sermon for your parents because maybe they'll start giving you a little allowance. How many of you have ever been bored before? Now the hands go up really fast. I believe that if you're bored, it's because you have too much time and you don't know what to do with it. So we have talents. Who can tell me what a talent is? Nora? Okay, something that you're good at. What else is a talent? Okay, something that you're practicing a long time. So sometimes it's something that we're good at, but we can make even better by practicing. Yeah, anything really, right? So we have talents. Some of us, those at least of us that have an allowance, have some sort of treasure. And if we've ever been bored before, it means we have time. Well, the divine liturgy that we're celebrating this very morning, it teaches us two very important lessons. Two of the most important lessons you will ever learn. The first is that everything that we have, whether it's a talent, whether it's treasure, or even just time, life itself is a gift from who? Having confidence is also a gift. Who does it all come from? A little bit better. A little bit better. So everything is a gift from God. And so in the end, what do we have to give to God but what He has given to us? So if you have a talent, maybe you're a singer. Do we have any singers? Oh, good. We have some wonderful singers. That, believe it or not, is a gift from God. Now, it takes practice and work on your part to become a better singer, but that's a gift from God. And just as the liturgy shows us that we should be thankful for the gift, but also we need to offer that gift to God. So how can we offer the gift of singing to God? Yeah, we can sing in church. But, what's really amazing is, does God only hear us when we're in church? No, we can sing to Him anywhere and everywhere. Sometimes I'll chant hymns in my car, and people roll up next to me and they'll look in the window, and I'm chanting Aios Atheos, and I always wonder, what do they think is going on? But we can sing, we can offer our voices to God anywhere and everywhere. For those of you that have an allowance, you have a little bit of treasure, or maybe you were given some money at Christmas or on your birthday, who did that come from? Good for you guys. I was expecting you to say mom and dad, but yeah, ultimately everything that we have is a gift from God to us. And how do we offer it back to Him? What are some ways that we can offer our treasure to God? Yeah, we can put the money into the offering. We can put maybe $1 in when we light a candle. And this is a beautiful way, not just for us to help out the church, but it's a beautiful way for us to tell God thank you and to recognize that everything we have is from. All right, the answer is going to be the same every time, so you guys can say it a little bit louder. So everything we have is a gift from God, and it has its meaning, its most special, when it's offered to God. So how do we do this? We have in our church innumerable saints. As many stars in the sky are the saints of our church. And each and every one of us, they had a gift, and they show each and every one of us how they offered this gift to God. So a few days ago, we celebrated the feast day of St. Cosmas and Damien. And guess what? They were doctors. You know what? They didn't accept any money because the skill, the grace that they were given by God to use for the healing, they offered to God without any charge, without any service. How many of you have heard of St. Catherine before? St. Catherine, she was smarter than everybody else. She was wiser than all the philosophers. So you young ladies that are here, if anyone ever tells you you need to be quiet, guess what? St. Catherine, she spoke up. And she confounded all of the philosophers, all these people that were saying bad things about God and about Jesus. They were saying things that weren't true. She was so well-spoken. She was so wise. She was able to make them look foolish. So she used her intelligence, her ability to speak beautifully, and she did this and offered it to who? Right? God. We'll get there. So we have other saints of the church. Another one of my favorite saints, his feast day is coming up this November, or this end of this week, St. Nectarios. Now, what's really special about St. Nectarios is because he was a more contemporary saint, maybe he was alive when your grandparents, or at least your great-grandparents were alive. We know a lot of really neat details about his life. And so there's a beautiful story about him when he was 8 years old. How many of you guys are 8? How many of you are going to be 8 in a year or a few years? We're all kind of around the age of 8. Very good. When he was just a little boy, when he was 8 years old, he had the gift of being able to read and write. He was really good at it. And the reason why is because he always wanted to read the Bible. He always wanted to read the lives of the saints. And St. Nectarios, he also got an allowance. And you know what he would do with his allowance? He would go to a little market and he would buy a little package of papers. And these papers were usually used by people to make cigarettes. And it's not that St. Nectarios didn't smoke, but you know what he did with those papers? He would write little messages. Sometimes they were little quotes from the Bible. Sometimes they were sayings from the fathers. Sometimes they were just a little nice message that said something like, remember that God loves you. And then you know what he would do? He would fold up these little pieces of paper and he would just walk around the neighborhood and he'd leave them places. Maybe he'd set it on a bench. He'd put it in somebody's mailbox and he'd leave all these messages. And it just so happened that by God's grace, everybody who needed to hear a special message was the one that would find the note from St. Nectarios. So that shows us that even if we're not the best football player or soccer player, if we can do something as simple as reading and writing, we remember it's a gift from God, we can offer it back to him in this beautiful way. In today's gospel reading, we learn of another important way that we can offer our talent, our treasure, and our time to God. Because sometimes we think, well, where is God? Sometimes he feels far away. Sometimes we think, well, he's in heaven and I'm here. And even though we know that he's all around us, it may seem hard. How can I do these things? How can I give back to God from all the good things he's given me? Well, in today's gospel reading, we learn that what we do for people that are in need, maybe someone hasn't received a gift that's been given to you abundantly. Well, you can share that gift with them. So we hear about a rich man in today's gospel reading who was very wealthy. And then we hear about a poor man who didn't even have enough to eat. Well, guess what? God gave the rich man all of that money so that he could build houses and have fancy carriages. He gave him all of that money so that he could share it with Lazarus and with the people like Lazarus. But because he didn't share it, because he didn't realize it was a gift, in the end of the story, everything was taken away from him. So we can remember that if we share with others, if we give to those in need, and we do this with thanksgiving to God, it's as if we're giving them to Christ himself. Now, I'd like to conclude with a little message to the parents and the grandparents. I know you're out there. In this month of November, we learn another important message about stewardship, about offering our gifts that God has given us to Christ. Now, I do not have children of my own, but I think most parents I've talked to, when they look at their lives and they count their blessings, if you will, they will say that the greatest treasure that God ever gave to them was your children. Your children. As much work as you have put, as much effort as you've put into raising those children, dear parents, those children are God's. And the way that we are thankful, we show thanksgiving for the children that God has given us, is by bringing them to church. On the 21st of November, we hear of how Joachim and Anna, the grandparents of Christ, they brought their daughter to the church, to the temple, and they offered. And there she remained. God isn't asking you to bring your children to church and leave them there, though I'm sure my parents wanted to do that at times. But we're to bring the children to church in thanksgiving. Recognize that they're a gift, but also this is a gift that you will be giving your children. And not just on Sundays. And this is a message that I've said before, but I'll say again and again. This upcoming month of November, of December, we have so many beautiful feast days. On Friday, all the Michaels and Gabriels have their name day. We have St. Nicholas in December, St. Catherine at the end of the month. Bring your children to church. Make a tradition. If you need me to write a note to the teachers to excuse them, I'll be happy to do that. They may go to school a little bit late, but that's just one day a year. Make it a tradition. On the 6th of December, bring your Nicholas to church every morning. Take them out for lunch afterwards, and you will give that child a memory, a connection with their saint, with you, with the church that they'll never forget. And if for some reason your child absolutely cannot miss school, we always do Vespers the evening before. So to conclude with, thank God for everything he has given you, and do everything that you can to take these gifts and offer them to Christ our God, who is holy. Amen.